Hello, 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 everyone. As we gather for this very first Reinvention show of 2022, I hope this year is starting for you with a lot of peace and joy and calm. And I hope you are in a space filled with resource, with energy, with vitality, as we will all need it as we move forward. And I'm saying that with a lot of heavy heart today. I'm in a particular somber mood. As many of you know, I come from a country of Kazakhstan, which has been amidst of extreme violence for the last few days, and I haven't been able to locate my parents for over 24 hours. We just found them, they're safe and they're okay. But looking at that kind of violence is only adding to waves and waves of crisis, uncertainty, disruption, and volatility that we all experience in different forms. Right before New Year's, here in the US, a group of my friends went through horrific experiencing of losing their houses in extreme fire in Colorado. You saw that more than 1,000 houses got destroyed in this big blitz. And we know because of climate change, this kind of unusual weather events will continue to happen more and more often. I also get in news from my close family members who are members of staff in some of the largest hospitals here in the US. And the situation on the floor of hospitals is pretty dire, with doctors, nurses, staff members getting sick, but the patients are coming in, and it's extreme uncertainty. So today's topic seems like the right discussion. How do we live in uncertainty? Is it possible to thrive in uncertainty? And what are pragmatic tools and solutions can we use when we're faced with this kind of extreme volatility, with absolutely no clarity of how things will turn out, when we truly don't know, when we're in the middle of an unknown, uncertainty? How do we manage ourselves first and foremost to understand how can we be helpful for somebody else? So as I start this in a very somber mood, I want to welcome you all to the Reinvention show, the very first episode of 2022, and then invite you to let me know in the comments where are you joining us from and how are you doing. I see Michael is here from Germany. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know in the comments where are you joining us from. It's been a welcome tradition and very much a cherished part of the reinvention movement around the world, is how international we are, how global this experience is. So today, I want to spend a little bit of time looking at the neuroscience on what happens to us when we're faced with uncertainty, whether it's uncertainty of getting a new boss or uncertainty of losing all or part of your business because of some sort of volatility or disruption, economic crisis, new competitor, new regulation, COVID-19, or the uncertainties of extreme levels, including social unrest and so on. I see that Marie Claude is here. Marie Claude just defended her most amazing project as a certified reinvention practitioner. Yesterday, we were all present for Marie Claude's defense. Congratulations to our new certified reinvention practitioner. And I'm excited to see how you're changing things around the world. I see my fellow countrymen who say that they cannot think of anything but Kazakhstan right now. So we will also talk about what do we do with our bodies when we are in such extreme stress, when we are facing such extreme uncertainty. As I mentioned, I couldn't locate my parents for over 24 hours. That is extreme stress on everyone involved. How do we react? What do we do with that? I see Greg is here from Vancouver Island. Greg, let us know how the year is starting for you. Welcome. Excited to have you. And I see Stas is here from Belarus. Welcome. We're very happy to have you. So today we're talking about uncertainty and how do we manage ourselves, our teams, our community in the middle of extreme crisis, or it may not be extreme. It might be that you got a new boss, or you were just about to travel somewhere and the new wave of infection made your travel very, very difficult, or you had some sort of intense experience in your business, you're a small business owner, and a new competitor just entered the market. In all of those situations, we have similar reality, which is we're disrupted, and the outcome of that disruption is uncertain. We cannot predict whether the events will go left, right, or center, and if they will be what we consider positive and what we consider negative. So we don't know the nature of the outcome and we don't know the direction of the outcome. So we are caught by disruption and we're experiencing extreme uncertainty, and there is a normal biological response that happens at this moment that's so important for us to understand the mechanics, because once you understand what's happening in your body at that moment, you will be able to do something, to use this moment in a productive way and not be a victim of your own bodily reaction and of your own stress. So, just to remind you, what happens when we are experiencing any kind of disruption is that our body, whether we're sitting in a business meeting, in front of a TV, watching news, or getting a text on a message, reading an announcement of our company email, looking at a new competitor building a new store across from our store, what happens at that moment is our body kicks in the traditional normal reaction that you all study in school, which is the famous fight or flight syndrome. It is an automatic reaction. It's not controlled by our body. We're not able to suppress it, thanks God, because this reaction was built over millions of years across many species, and it's designed to get our body organized and ready to fight, which is to kill the enemy, or flight, to run away from the enemy. And those biological reactions are there to make sure that all the resources in our body are reorganized, and therefore all the right supply of blood and oxygen is given to the right parts of our body, so we can either fight if we feel strong enough to fight the threat, or run away from a threat. So that's a normal reaction, and it happens whether you are seeing a physical threat to yourself on a street in a violent protest, or you are seeing a theoretical threat to yourself in the middle of a business meeting. It's exact same neurological reaction. So what happens when we're experiencing a sense of threat? Our adrenal glands, right above our kidneys and other parts of our body, create a very quick shot of adrenaline, a particular hormone that helps our body to start a chain of events, preparing itself to fight or flight. First, our body starts pumping blood stronger. Why? Because, in the body's perspective, this is a physical threat, and to fight or to run away, I need muscles to be ready. And to get the blood to the muscles, I need to increase the rate so the blood pressure goes up and the heartbeat exacerbates so that that blood is supplied to the muscles. The second thing that happens is our brain loses oxygen. In a point of view of biology, the neocortex, this part of our brain, is completely unnecessary to survive a physical threat. So what happens is the blood is actually redistributed. The body squeezes the blood out of our brain so that it's supplied to our muscles. Another very, very important thing that happens to our bodies when we're in the middle of a threat, uncertainty, crisis, is that we go through what is called auditory exclusion. This means that what our ears record as sounds is not processed in a normal way, and only images, or in this case, sounds, images are also limited to and remove all the periphery vision, but only sounds that are directly related to our survival are processed by the brain. All other sounds are ignored and suppressed. Remember the last time you were in a particular stressful meeting. You're in the middle, whether it's a face-to-face meeting or Zoom meeting, and you were in a stressful meeting. And now that you look back at that meeting, you cannot remember half of the meeting. If this ever happened to you, give me a plus in the comments. I definitely seen that happen to me. And by the way, I see more of you are joining. Jordan is here from Senegal. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know in the comments if this ever happened to you, that you were in a stressful business meeting and you do not recall part of the meeting. I see Michael gives me a plus, others are giving me a plus. So that definitely happened to me as well. This is the fight or flight syndrome in action, where we have auditory exclusion kicking in automatically. This is not because we are weak or strong, whether we're professional or not professional. Thanks God this automatic syndrome exists, because it's there to help us process stress. It's not our enemy. It's a normal physical reaction of our body, and your rational brain has nothing to do with it. This is the example I use over and over for hundreds of times, but bear with me. Remember the last time you were in the passenger seat of the car and the driver was doing something crazy. Remember that moment? You're in the passenger seat of the car, and on the left or on the right, depending on which country, the driver is doing something crazy, something dangerous on the road. What is your foot doing if you are a driver yourself? Your foot is trying to press the imaginary brake. Now, you are not a stupid person. You're a rational, thoughtful professional. When you sat down in that car, you recognize, your eyes registered the fact that there is no pedals to press. You don't have the pedals because you're on the passenger seat. But your body reaction is so much stronger than your rational mind. So it's not a sign of rational inintelligence or unprofessionalism. Your reactions are automatic, and your body will start pressing those imaginary brakes, whether you like them or not. This is what happens in business meetings, where we are excited to introduce a new idea. We're excited to bring a new potential reinvention. Maybe it's a new product or new process or new way of doing things. And the team around you doesn't see your idea as this exciting opportunity. For them, that's a lion, that's a bear. And their body immediately starts pressing the imaginary brake. Of course, in a real business sense, you cannot fight the boss, or you cannot run away from the boss. So all of this is happening here. You start making shopping lists for your weekend. You start sending sarcastic text messages to a colleague who you know thinks the way you think. There are different ways fight and flight shows up, whether it's aggressive reaction in the form of text messages or withdrawal reaction in the form of making a shopping list on your phone. But it still is an automatic reaction, and it exists in all of us, whether you think this is necessary or not necessary. Your body doesn't care. This turns on. This might be bad news in the middle of disruption, whether it's an extreme disruption like what Kazakhstan is experiencing right now, or relatively mild disruption like you got a new boss or a new idea that you need to implement. But that's an automatic reaction. And of course, I experienced the same automatic reaction in the last 48 hours as my fellow countrymen, whether I like it or not. My body was tensing up, my blood pressure was increasing, the blood supply from my brain was removing, and I was not able to think or hear everyone and think straight, and on and on and on. That, you can say, is a bad news from the perspective of adaptation and a healthy response. I don't think it's a bad news, it's just a friendly fact. But there is a very good news. For an average human being, this automatic reaction, whether it's happening in a business meeting, in a family conversation, in an extremely stressful situation, in an airport, on the streets of a violent city, or wherever else, for an average human being, from the moment the adrenaline enters your bloodstream to the moment it starts clearing out through your kidneys, on average takes about 90 seconds. That's all. We don't have much time necessary to either kill the animal, run away of the animal. Nature's calculation is that by then you're either destroyed or you survived. You don't need any more resource. Now, that means The first 90 seconds, we don't have a choice. It's not up to us how we will react because the body kicks in. And our job at that point is not to fight this emotion, not to suppress this reaction, but to fully feel it. There's this simple formula psychologists use: name it to tame it. If you name your emotion, you immediately tame it. So be angry, feel sorrow, feel sadness, feel fear. Don't fight it. And sometimes I have my daughter coming in from school or from work, very frustrated and angry, and I start producing potential solutions for her. And she's like, Mom, give me my 90 seconds. Give me a chance to feel what I feel. So that's the first step, is giving ourselves, our teams, our colleagues, our family members their 90 seconds, naming the emotions so that we can tame the emotion. We can understand it, we can acknowledge it instead of suppressing it. That's the first 90 seconds. But from the end of about, it's a little bit different for everyone. And of course, on a bad day, I can get stuck in my 90 seconds for a good hour. But the good news is that after the first initial reaction, we do have a choice. From then on, we can choose to start a new 90-second cycle and a new 90-second cycle and another 90-second cycle, or we might choose to start doing something more productive. And I've seen people staying in those 90 seconds literally for years. I see people who are still upset about something that happened to them long time ago, justifiably upset the first 90 seconds or 90 minutes or even 90 days, but probably not very helpful for them, for their own health, for their families, for their businesses, for their communities now. I know people who are still upset about last economic crisis of 2008, 2011. They cannot get out of that extreme negative reaction, very destructive reaction. It's a positive, helpful reaction when it helps you mobilize. But if you got stuck in those 90 seconds and you keep going and going in those 90 seconds, you are creating mainly harm to yourself, and it's making it very difficult to find a useful reaction. Why? After the first 90 seconds are over and we are still in the middle of crisis and uncertainty, now is the time to train patience. Now is the time to have an open mind and look for new solutions that most likely are on the periphery. Now is the time to listen to different voices. And if we are in the same fight or flight syndrome, auditory exclusion, we cannot hear anyone. So unless we exit the automatic biological response, we have no capacity in our body to think creatively of potential solutions because blood supply is redistributed from the brain to the muscles. We are not able to hear diverse voices and opinions because auditory exclusion means that our brain literally does not record alternative voices. Our eyesight is literally narrowed down. We do not see on the periphery, and we are not capable to look around and notice new ideas and possibilities. So getting stuck in those 90 seconds, or getting stuck in any state for that matter, is generally speaking usually very, very destructive. First and foremost for yourself, and then you become less productive and useful for those around you, whether it's your team, your company, your community, your family, and so on. So, my invitation to you is to practice a particular set of traditions or skills or automatic habits. Let's develop new habits. And those habits mean, one, honoring the 90 seconds once you have that reaction. That includes giving your people, whether it's your family, your team, your company, time to feel those feelings, not suppressing them, not covering them up with toxic positivity and saying everything's going to be great. We do not know if it's going to be great. So fear and pain and sadness and anger are justified and healthy and necessary once we are processing the initial shock. So, giving the room, holding the space for those feelings, and allowing ourselves to feel those feelings and naming them, name it to tame it, is the first part of the protocol. And the second part of the protocol is finding a way out of the first 90 seconds and not allowing yourself to start a new cycle and a new cycle and a new cycle. And here's some practices that can help you. Number one, preventing the new cycle from starting. There's a very particular magical part of our brain, a function of our brain, that helps us invent the most unusual products, create the most amazing solutions, write fantasy books, develop amazing movies. This is imagination. Imagination is our friend, is one of the most unique features of human mind. And it's what allows us to first imagine a solution and then bring it to reality. Everything you see around you, this, anything that is around you, this, did not exist in nature. This is a product of human imagination. It first emerged in our brain and then was brought into reality. But there's one area where imagination works against us, and that is with our 90 seconds. Because when we are experiencing the initial shock or remembering that disruption, our brain uses the same function of imagination and it does not know the difference. If I scan my brain while I'm experiencing the disruption, and then scan my brain again, thinking about that disruption, just remembering it, the actual image of my brain will be very, very similar, about the same parts light up. So our brain literally doesn't know, are you experiencing an attack or are you remembering an attack? Are you experiencing some of the horrific disruptions we've had in our lives, or we're just remembering them? And that's where we have to become vigilant. The first practices are all about preventing yourself and your team from starting the new cycle. And that means we need to make sure that we concentrate on things that stay within our control and focus on things that are within our control, rather than spreading our attention on things we don't control. That means during the meetings in business, if you are experiencing a disruption in your business, remember when COVID started, is not spending most of the meeting discussing potential horrible things that come out of it. That is staying in 90 seconds nonstop. That means not allowing yourself to be surrounded by potentially negative speculation, especially this, of course, applies to the news, because currently the news is all built around negative information. So our brain is constantly starting a new stress response because it's getting bombarded by so many negative messages. That means bringing yourself back again and again to focus on productive action. And that is the second part of our protocol. Reduce the chances of starting the new cycle by eliminating potential disruptors or triggers for your imagination. And second, by getting yourself busy. That busy can be meditation, walk, cooking. That busy can be concentrating on creating something with your company, with your team, with anything else. Most of the time, when we are doing something for others, it's easier for us to exit our own neurosis, our own fear automation that is happening inside our brain. So concentrating on things, what can we actually control? What can we do? And as Greg says, get up to something. Absolutely. So the most important thing, one, do not suppress the first 90 seconds. So the first mistake I see that is happening in a typical disruption and stress reaction is, let's cover it up. Let's not feel it. Let's pretend it's all good. It's not all good. Things very often are in a lot of intensity. And as Maya is reminding us, I remember that many of us were in the same level of fear and uncertainty and freeze that my country is experiencing, the same was experienced by many during the lockdown in March of 2020, as Maya is saying here. It's the same biological reaction, which means we have to learn how to allow ourselves those 90 seconds first, but then be very vigilant not to get stuck in those 90 seconds second, which is both reducing the amount of stimulus that can generate and hook our imagination and get us stuck in imagining every potential horror that can come out of it. And that means getting out of our mind to start doing something that is within our immediate zone of control and influence. That includes, what do I do with my body? That includes, what do I do with my mind? How can I utilize my body and mind productively right now? That means in a team, what specifically within our control and influence, what can we do that is productive right now? Let's concentrate, let's be useful, let's do things, let's focus on whatever we can control at the moment. And research generally saying that if you spend most of your internal, so your mind, and external resource, your time, your money, your energy, on things that are outside of your control, your sphere of control and influence will shrink and shrink and shrink. But if you spend at least 80% of your time, your thinking, your discussion, your efforts, your resources on things you can directly control or at least partially influence, your sphere of influence will grow. So, my reminder to all of you is to come back to the neurological basis. Whether you are like my countrymen in Kazakhstan, are in the middle of a violent disruption, or you are looking at another wave of uncertainty because of the new wave of the coronavirus, or because you are facing a technological disruption, your employees are acting differently, or you're getting new structure in your company, your competitors are actively differently, there's some disruption in terms of regulation or any other way, supply chain reactions, disruptions are very big now. Whatever it is, I invite you to come back to the basics and remember that your biology is there for you. Your body generates this stress response so that you can focus. It's your friend. It's there to bring the energy up and focus all of your attention in one place. So do not fight those 90 seconds. Remember the wise words of my teenage daughter, Mom, give me my 90 seconds. So give yourself your 90 seconds. If you are suffering, if you're in pain, if you're in fear, if you're in anger, honor those emotions. And once you give them justice, make sure that you do everything in your power not to get stuck on those emotions by concentrating on things that are in your direct line of control and influence, whether it's yourself, your team, your family, your company. Don't spend 90% of your meeting discussing the horrible other, whether it's the horrible competitor, the horrible boss, the horrible family member, the horrible enemy, the horrible government, whatever else is the horrible enemy. Don't spend time on things you cannot control. I cannot control climate change. I cannot control what's happening in my country. I cannot control the foreign exchange rates or what Federal Reserve will do that is now influencing the markets and tanking the markets this last 24 hours. I cannot control so many things, but there are things that are within my control. So let's concentrate on that. Let me know if this was helpful. I know this is not the show I planned personally. For me, as we were planning the show, it was the time for celebration and high energy and greeting of the new year and planning the new year. But the way the year started again confirmed what we've been saying as a community for years and years and years. The very first talk on this matter happened 7 years ago in 2015. We are entering the age of extreme uncertainty, of extreme volatility and constant disruption. We have to admit to ourselves that this is the new normal. We have to be honest with ourselves that the tools, solutions, and skills that served us 20, 30 years ago, the best of business strategy, the best of philosophy, the best of basic human skills, they were wonderful tools for that time. But in today's time, those tools are no longer useful. And we have to get very, very serious about building our muscles to handle uncertainty, to be able to turn uncertainty and disruption into opportunity, and to do that with a lot of nuanced thoughtfulness, with a lot of care and gentle management towards ourselves and those around us. So I invite you to take those skills seriously, even though this was definitely not the plan I had for this show. And those of you who would like to spend a little bit of time building your reinvention muscles, and it will be a very practical week for us next week, I do invite you to join our Easy Reinvention Lab. It will be, of course, colored by the increasing disruptions that we're facing all over the world. And I will be using the examples, whether it's from my own life, corporate life, personal life. The Easy Reinvention Lab is starting on Monday, this Monday, January 10th. The way it works is we hold on Zoom. It's a live, free online workshop. We come together on Zoom once a day for just about 1 hour and give you one assignment for every day using our own tools, including the Titanic Syndrome test, including our famous 3 bucket exercise specifically built around how to turn fear into resource, whether it's your own fear or your team fear, your competitor fear, wherever is the group. We use the Blue Ocean Strategy Canvas and many other tools. And you come for live event and you do the workbook, and by the end of the week you have very tangible first experiments to run in your efforts to reinvent yourself, your company, your products, your services. So I invite you to join the lab, especially because it feels so needed right now. It's coming closer home. The uncertainty and disruption, the volatility of the world is no longer something that happens far away in that other country or in that other neighborhood. There is no neighborhood, there's no industry, there's no company, there's no community that is not facing some form of disruption and uncertainty right now. And I believe we have to come together and start treating the skills seriously, investing in them as if our life depends on them, because it does. So I invite you to join the lab. Of course, if you cannot be there live, we will provide you with limited time replays and you will be able to catch up. We have about 500 professionals coming from around the world and they're already introducing themselves and sharing their stories. I appreciate that. And I hope that no matter what disruption and uncertainty you're facing this week, you're using the practices we discussed today to strengthen yourself, to strengthen your team, to help your community, to help your business, to help your organization, to help your family. So love, love, love to see all your reactions. Let me know if this was helpful. Thank you, Marie-Claude, for reactions. I know this is a bit more somber than we usually go for, but this is the best I can do to honor where we are. I invite you to join the lab. In the comments, you will see an invitation and link from Stasis. You see here, it's a free live online event. Share with your community, share far and wide. This is the last chance to register. We start this Monday, January 10th. And of course, if you feel like this is something you want to practice, please do download our 85-page preview of the Chief Reinvention Officer Handbook, How to Thrive in Chaos, where you will get a bit more resources, including some tools to help you learn how to practice planning in uncertainty and living in uncertainty. With that, I send you my big hugs. I see you at the lab. There will be no show planned. At least at this point, we do not plan a show for the lab. And I give you my hugs. See you all very, very soon. Stay safe, breathe, honor your 90 seconds, and then do something with those resources in that 90 seconds. All my love.